This is Mason Web TV, powered by HCC.
This broadcast on Mason Web TV, powered by HCC, is being made possible by Hood Canal Communications, committed to providing quality services that exceed customer expectations in voice, video, data, and customer service, keeping our community connected since 1934. Mason County Public Health and Human Services Prevention Education Partners Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition, helping provide prescription drug take-back boxes in Mason County. Mason PUD 3, connecting our community with safe, reliable, economical, and sustainable services 24/7. And Mason Health, united community, empowered people, exceptional health.
So we made a quick adjustment, and Kadeen Ferguson-Brown was kind enough to hold back on that too. So we will have both of those judges in a forum setting here in the near future on that one. So thank you so much. I am honored here now to introduce to you three candidates for City of Shelton Council Member 1 position, and they're going to have 2 minutes to introduce themselves. We'll go through some questions that have been pre-prepared. Now is your opportunity for last-minute questions to be written from the audience, and if you have any questions, you can give them to Bob there, and we can get through those. Would like to remind everybody to turn off your phones if you have not yet. Would like to thank the Mason County Republicans for putting this on this evening. In August, they will be out at Mason Lake for a fundraiser and cooking contest, which sounds like a lot of fun. And I also would like to take this time, before we get started, one, to acknowledge any of the other elected officials who are in the audience here. If you would like to just raise your hand or stand, and thank you so much for being here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people here tonight, 6 people here. Thank you so much. And now, before we get things underway, let's all please rise and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Again, we'll have 2-minute introductions from our candidates here tonight. We'll go through a Q&A, and they'll each have an opportunity to answer that question, and then if there's any questions from the audience, that we'll ask those as well. So first things first, with 2 minutes for introduction, we're going to start with Mary Eagleson down at the end. Mary, go ahead and take your microphone, and we have a timer here in the audience. Make sure everybody up on the stage can see that. That will be your notation to wrap things up. So if the timer's ready and everybody else is ready to go, Mary,
You introduce yourself.
2 minutes introduction to you.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for coming. My name is Mary Eagleson, and I'm running for City Council, Seat 1. Some of you people know me, some don't. And I just want to be on the City Council to help do the best I can for the city and try to make decent decisions if we can, and handle some of the problems that really need to be handled in this city, and see what we can do if the city can't do it, if we can get help otherwise, and do the best we can. And that's all I have to say right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Next, for 2 minutes for the introduction, Tristen Smith, please.
So hi, my name is Tristen Smith. Some of you may know me from Lumberman's / Builder's First Source, now downtown. Pretty sure everybody that's been in Shelton for a long time calls it Lumberman's. I've worked there for about 4 years. I've lived in the city of Shelton for approximately 6 years, a little over that. I'm a hardworking mom of 2, so I've got one little child that's in elementary school, and the other one is just a little baby. In addition to that, I have a second job, owning my own contracting business, doing some small jobs around town. I've been involved with the Shelton Historic Preservation Board for the past probably a little over a year now. So I've helped them with the historic district downtown, building decisions, trying to maintain the properties around that area. And I really just want to help Shelton become the best it can be. I enjoy visiting all the parks, the recreation. I've loved seeing all the downtown events that go on that really help everyone. And I'd like to help make that more of a possibility and create more of that for everyone to enjoy.
Thank you. And finally, for 2 minutes of introduction, George Blush.
How you doing, everybody? My name is George Blush, and I'm running for Shelton City Council seat number 1. I'm a happily married father. I've been married to the same woman for 24 years. She's a representative of the Mason County Sheriff's Office, proudly. We have 3 amazing kids, age 11 to 20. A lot of you have met them around here, and one of them's around here somewhere. I am the executive director of 5XL Shelton Pet Food Bank. I've been feeding pets here in the community for the last 6 years. My family and I run Nita's Coffee Shop, which is right downtown. We've been there the last 5 years, kind of helping out, doing whatever we can in the community. I am on the board of directors for Crossroads Housing, and you know, I know the importance of housing around here, and I definitely get to see firsthand the things that are working and happening. I'm also chairman of the Mason County Housing Authority. I have been for the last 3 years. These properties went from the worst, most crime-filled chaos that you could have imagined to, if you look out the window right here, you can see all the kids that are running around blowing bubbles and having fun. I think I can bring that leadership to the city of Shelton, and I think we can clean it up and make it look like that all over the place. If you want a cleaner, safer Shelton, vote Blush. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Thank you, everybody, for your introductions. Again, we'll go through 3 questions throughout the candidates that are here. We'll go through the Q&A, so if anybody has thought of anything or is learned something new from the introductions and you want to ask a final question, Bob has the papers there. Okay, first question here, and we're going to go down the line, and again, make sure, candidates, make sure you keep notes on your time. Mary, we'll start with you. Describe your understanding of the Ninth Circuit Court case, Martin v. Boise, how it affects the city, and how the city can act under the ruling.
I'm not sure of that proposal that you're talking about. Can you give me a little more clarity on that?
The Ninth Circuit Court case, Martin v. Boise, deals with homelessness.
Thank you. We talked about that when I was on the committee for the homeless. That's a hard one to answer because I don't think there's a real answer for that. Nobody's come up with a solution. So, you know, they talked about that, and I'm sorry, everybody, I'm a little nervous here. So let me get my thoughts straight here. When we talked about that in the committee, everybody had different ideas according to what you have just read for the circuit court, but it's too big of a problem in all the cities. So that's as clear as I can be on that one. I didn't read it before I came, even though I have it at home, so I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thank you, Mary. Tristen, the same question is to you. Describe your understanding of the Ninth Circuit Court case, Martin v. Boise, how it affects the city, and how the city can act under the ruling.
So unfortunately, I'm not very familiar with the Martin v. Boise court case. I believe I have not looked that one up. I understand that the city does have some good programs out there for the homeless, some that will start them with emergency housing or just overnight housing, try and get them into more permanent housing, get them jobs. I fully support these programs. I think it's great to get the homeless on steps towards success, and that by doing that, we can try and eliminate a lot of our homelessness problem. And that there are a few people out there that are attempting to get better, make themselves reintegrated into society, and become better have jobs, try and support the community. And I think that's really important that we help them with that.
Thank you. George, again, the question to you. Describe your understanding of the Ninth Circuit Court case, Martin v. Boise, how it affects the city, and how the city can act under the ruling.
My understanding of the court case is that our police are not allowed to tell people they can't camp in the parks if we do not have bedding available for them in the local homeless shelter. Now, the effect that it has on the city is very, minimal, to be honest with you, because it's not the homeless people that are the problem out here. We have a culture that's created around here in our community of people who are just lawless, and they don't care about you, they don't care about me. And just the other day, I had to clean up one of their messes off the front of my business. I don't mind cleaning it up out of the alley. You know what? I've taken to that over the last 5 years. I've had to clean a lot of messes up in the alley. But now they're bringing it to the front, to the middle of the street, where your kids, your grandma, and everybody else can step in it. So I take it upon myself to clean up my block radius, and I make sure that none of the little senior women who run the shops there get harassed by anybody else. And I think if you bring me in here as a city councilman, that I can do the same thing here. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Question 2, we'll start with Tristen. Explain how the city directly impacts the cost of housing and cost of remaining in your home, and what can be done at the city level to lower housing costs.
That's actually a very good question. So we do know that there is a housing crisis going on right now. The elevated cost of housing is making it difficult for people to live in the city, and people that are at the very bottom of the poverty line are kind of being pushed out of housing or pushed into housing situations where they don't feel like they can report their existing housing issues, because if they lose that position, then they're not going to get another good home to live in. The way the city can help impact this is we do need to try and help enforce the code in the building so that people that are living in places, they have safe places to be. So if we have, say, a large rental unit and one of the units is flooding, why is it flooding? Is it because of previous issues with the building? Is it because they haven't done anything to fix it before, or is it a new issue? Or is it being repaired quickly so people can move back into their home instead of being displaced into a temporary situation? The sooner that we can get people into their homes, living in a place where they can afford to live, the easier it'll be.
Thank you. George, the same question is to you. Explain how the city directly impacts the cost of housing and cost of remaining in your home, and what can be done at the city level to lower housing costs.
On the city level, one of the issues that I have, I'm a homeowner in the city, and one of my biggest expenses is water. I don't understand how that happened. It went overnight, though, it seemed over the last year, from one amount to almost double. And so I started checking taps, I started looking at everything, and then I couldn't figure out what was going on there. So I called up and inquired about it. Found out that there's no appeal process or nothing. If you don't pay your bill, they're coming to shut it off. So that somehow doesn't seem right to me. That's just one of the different expenses that you have at the city here, where you go, what's going on here? Why are we focused on and paying attention to this over here, like putting new trees in downtown, when we have a skyrocketing cost coming up over here? Is one paying for the other? I have a lot of questions. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Mary, explain how the city directly impacts the cost of housing and the cost of remaining in your home, and what can be done at the city level to lower housing costs.
Well, I think one of the issues is we need more homes. We need to, and we are in the process of, under my understanding, annexing more property to have more homes. And along with that comes more taxes, of course, for the city. But for people to stay in their homes, with the cost of living the way it is hard to say where you can make the cuts at this point to make it easier for people to live. The city has to sustain itself. We have to have money coming in so that we can do the roads, so we can do the sidewalks, so we can do everything that needs to be done for the homeowners. But if we don't have more homes and more taxes coming in and a possibility of lowering some of these costs for homeowners, it's going to be a real problem later on down the road.
Thank you. Before we move to the next question, is everybody okay with keeping this door open over here? It's not too loud? Okay. They're having karate over here, so it's a little loud. All right, here we go. Question number 3. George, we'll start with you. More city residents are being affected by crime of all types. What would you propose as possible solutions to this issue?
Stop making it comfortable for them. We have given up and surrendered Brewer Park. That's not acceptable to me. I drive past there every single day. There's people more and more getting dropped off here all the time, and we just accept it. if nobody says anything, then they're just going to keep doing the same thing. I go out there every day and deal with this every day, 5 days a week down at Nita's. If you don't believe me, come down and see me. You'll get to see all the things that I dealt with. Before I came here tonight, I was going to leave my car in front of Nita's. I was going to walk here because it's a nice night out. But with what's going on at the clock tower right now, I opted not to have my car stolen. So I said, I'm going to drive over here. And that's my reality that I dealt with just tonight. Thank you.
Mary, more city residents are being affected by crime of all types. What would you propose as possible solutions to this issue?
Well, the solution would really be a lot more police officers, but again, then we're talking about the financials of the city, whether we can afford more police officers. I think maybe one problem could be solved if we could get people to be more neighborhood watch people and be able to call in when they're seeing these things happen and be able to control it so it doesn't affect somebody down the street. If you have a situation, don't be afraid to call in. There is a lot of crime going on. I wish we had more undercover cops. I wish we could get out there and stop and find out where these guns are coming from, where the drugs are coming from. If we could solve some of those problems, maybe we could cut down the crime. And we have a bigger jail. We don't have a big enough jail. And trying to get all these people that are committing crimes into jail isn't happening. They're getting cited, but then they just go and they go somewhere else. So it is a problem. So we just need to find the right answers here. And I think getting more police officers and getting more people involved would help.
Tristen, final question here before we go to the Q&A from the audience. More city residents are being affected by crime of all types. What would you propose as possible solutions to this issue?
So working at Builders First Source, we do have a lot of theft in the area. It has gone up in recent years. I do want to commend our local police department for the responses that they've had coming to our business. We have had quite a few very aggravated individuals that we have had to have removed from the property. And the police have done a great job handling that, even when they get very aggressive. They haven't resorted to using any violence. They've been very peaceful in getting them to move along. Unfortunately, at this time, I don't believe that we have a local jail to put people in, so that might be something to work towards in the very future. Once we can get the budget in check, get some more police officers, help with some police officer training to kind of notice when things are going awry. I think that would be a good way to deal with it. And then make sure that maybe we have some social services people go with police officers on disturbance calls. That might be an excellent idea as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you. George, or Bob, can you please bring up some of these questions here from the audience? It'll be an opportunity too, if you hear some of these, to go through, and maybe you can add more as well. Mary, we'll start with you here for question number 1 from the Q&A. With the city having budget shortfalls, what are some ways to help this? And how does homelessness fall into that?
Well, homelessness, the city's financial stuff isn't just about the homeless. The city financial stuff comes from a lot of the stuff that the city has to buy, the trucks, people, and the different resources that we need to sustain our city. Homelessness is just one big problem that would take too much of the city's financial money if they were to solve. I think we're going to have to go to really solve this. I think we're going to have to go higher up in the government to get the help in the government to have some kind of a place for these people to go, maybe in different sections of a building where we can put medical people and counselors and give people help that they need to be able to sustain themselves in our city. But until we can do that, it's going to be a big problem, and the city just doesn't have that kind of money to take care of all the homeless people.
Tristen, again, the question is, with the city having budget shortfalls, what are some ways to help this? And how does homelessness fall into that?
So with a lot of the budget shortfalls, from what I understand, a lot of this comes from staffing in our city. I think it's somewhere around 68% is just staffing. Not that we need to decrease staffing, but maybe we do need to encourage hiring a grant writer on staffing to try and get some grants for the city. There are a lot of places that'll offer grants for beautification, helping to create housing for people that don't have any, and helping to fund all those programs. A grant writer would be able to bring in more money to the city, more than they're getting paid, hopefully. That way we can accommodate them. With that money, maybe we can use it towards encouraging the homeless to move into some sort of housing, get them off the streets, initiate some programs to get them jobs, working, and then getting them on their own feet. With that being said, I do believe that grant writer would be one of the best options for starting that, and then working with our local homeless societies to get them figure out what programs are working the best.
George, with the city having budget shortfalls, what are some ways to help this, and how does homelessness fall into that?
So the way homelessness factors into the amount of money that we're in the hole is because, you know, every time that they have to clean up another mess, every time that they have another fire, every time that services need to be used, et cetera, it goes on. So that creates more cost to the city. Every time there's an emergency call, you know, that creates this, gas use, you know, employees and all that sort of thing. And with that, I'm going to completely agree with Tristen and say we've needed a grant writer in this city for way too long. And the fact that it's only coming up now is amazing to me. And I was going to say the exact same thing, because we haven't, how is it possible? So I am a board member for a number of different organizations here in the community. And the only reason we've been successful is because we hired grant writers. We brought them in way long ago. Right now, at this point, you should have thought of that, you know, a year ago before you got into this pickle. So one of the first orders of business that definitely needs to be done immediately is, if not hire one, hire two grant writers so we can find the money. There's so much money out there. They tax us to death here. So now we need to find out how to get some of that money back. And then we can get right back where we need to be and clean up this mess.
Thank you, George. Question 2 from the audience, and we'll start with Tristen on this one. What traits and experience would you want the city manager to look for in the new police chief?
So with the police chief, I do think it's very important that we have one that encourages a lot of training within his staff, tries to keep the overtime hours down, as we know that a lot of police officers tend to get more stressed when they're tired. They have to make life-changing decisions every single day. Perhaps not so much in Shelton as a larger city, but a police chief would be able to show exemplary leadership, hopefully get some, like some social people on staff to be able to help them make more mental decisions rather than physical decisions. I think it's important to give them like rounds, make it so they know exactly where they're patrolling, what looks interesting, and a good police chief would be able to make sure everybody is where they're supposed to be, guide them, help them with decisions, and make sure that they're being exemplary members of the community and basically showing up.
And again, this question came about because in the Journal last week, it's reported that Chief Beeson has put in her note for retirement in November, and so that's where this is coming from, by the way. All right, George, what traits and experience would you want the city manager to look for in the new police chief?
I want someone with extensive leadership experience who's been in a law enforcement role, someone like our amazing sheriff we have over there. Someone like Ryan there who is involved in the community, someone who knows everybody, someone who walks downtown. I see him every day. When I'm down working, he comes walking through town with somebody else. We used to have that when we had Chief Moody here. Everybody remember that? Chief Moody was fantastic. He'd come in and shake my hand 3 times a day to make sure there was nobody out across the street that, you know, causing chaos or anything like that. So I'd be looking for someone who's doing that again. And if they bring in an interim somebody, and that's what I want to see in them, I want to see them step up and show us what we used to see. A concerted effort, coming out there, engaging people. I saw Chief Moody call different, you know, where people to come over and help them with, you know, different services and whatnot. Hey, they had mental health problems going on. He'd sit there with them and talk to them, you know, or get them over to Community Lifeline, wherever they needed to get to in order to get the services that they need. And I want to see a chief that's going to do that again and be a part of us and one of us. Thank you.
Mary, what traits and experience would you want the city manager to look for in the new police chief?
Well, this is kind of a cheating answer for me, since my brother used to work for the city of LA, and he was the one who made the decisions on who would be a policeman and who wouldn't. One of the main things he used to say to me was psychological experiences, whether this chief has the experience to handle what situations this chief police has handled before in positions that he has had. Is he patient? Is he capable? Is he, whether he is impartial? And is he the type of person that would really have our city at interest, or is his job more of interest to him?
Our next question from the audience will start with George. This is a for or against on the following ordinances. What is your position on the following ordinances? For or against? Shopping cart ordinance. We'll just start with that one.
For.
No lay, no lie ordinance.
For.
Those are the only two I have. Mary, again, these are for or against on your position on the following ordinances. First, the shopping cart ordinance.
For.
And no lay, no lie ordinance.
For.
Tristen, same question to you. What is your position on the following ordinances? For or against shopping cart ordinance?
For.
And no lay, no lie ordinance.
Also for.
Thank you. Question number 4, we'll start with Mary. Mary, what is your plan to deal with the leaving of drug paraphernalia and feces that are being left on porches of downtown businesses?
Well, first of all, let me say that's disgusting. Let's put it right there. It is one of the worst things that we can have in our city. I was going to present this to the council, but since we are on this subject now, if I were a store owner, I would have the ring taped to the inside of my door, and I would be taking pictures of these people who are doing that and handing it to the police officers. Since we don't have a police officer for every time these people are doing this, let's catch them ourselves. Let's put them on camera. The city can't afford cameras, so let's put them on camera and let's catch them. And maybe if they have to be cited and get fines, they'll quit doing it. It would help if we had some bathrooms for these people. There is no place for homeless, but then again, that's an expense for the city. So personally, let's protect ourselves and let's start catching these people and doing something about it so we can stop it from being on our city streets.
Tristen, what is your plan to deal with the leaving of drug paraphernalia and feces that are being left on porches of downtown businesses?
So I do think that is another case of the unhoused and homeless coming onto porches and businesses, trying to stay the night there because it's a little nook they can go in. I do believe we need to support our local housing authority and homeless shelters so that they can be able to take these people in. Perhaps police officers should be driving by downtown and encouraging them to go check in for the night. And I do think, as a future reference, it would be really nice to have public bathrooms for everybody, not just homeless, but just something where anybody can go. If we have visitors to the city, they can go in there. The city comes and cleans it a few times a day just to make sure everything's nice. But yeah, I think the biggest thing would be having a police presence downtown in the night, just kind of encouraging people to move on.
Thank you. And George, what is your plan to deal with the leaving of drug paraphernalia and feces that are being left on porches of downtown businesses?
First and foremost, I clean it up every single day. Every day when I'm downtown, I get to clean up one of that. It's usually in the alley, but lately it's been out front, which has been even more interesting. What I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to continue to do what I do, and I'm going to clean it up. And I'm going to get a bigger shovel if you put me in charge of the city. And I'm going to keep cleaning it up, because that's what I do. And we're going to start making it uncomfortable. They shouldn't be able to hang out in front of our shops at night. You know, get some lighting set up, different things like that. You know, if you need to use the restroom, we live in the woods. There's no reason for it to be in the middle of downtown. We need to stop accepting that that's okay. And that's just the way it has to be. I have a public restroom in my restaurant. I had to throw away the garbage can. Now we use a a paper box so we can just throw it out at the end of the day. If you want to open up your restroom to people, have at it. But mine is still public. I still grin and bear it, you know, because I try to do the right thing when I'm open. But like I said, we live in the woods, man. There's plenty of places for people to go. There's no reason for people to be gross. And the drug paraphernalia, there's sharps boxes everywhere. There's garbage cans. I pick them up, throw them in an old bleach bucket, put a cap on it, put it in the trash. We just need to maybe get some more bleach buckets on the county truck so everybody can pick them up. You know, whatever we need to do. Keep cleaning it up. Keep fighting and don't give up.
Our final question from the audience will start with Tristen, and this is kind of a two-parter that you can answer however you wish, I suppose. What is your position on the no street camping ordinance and the lack of enforcement? And there's a second same question regarding this similar for city parks. So your position on the no street camping ordinance and the lack of law enforcement, and as well the posted rules for city parks and the lack of enforcement.
Well, this has to do with also the ordinance where we have to allow any sort of park camping if we don't have an available bed for them. If we don't have available beds, then maybe we should want to stay. Unfortunately, our parks are a lot of places where they can either like hide under bushes, stay out of the public eye, get a little bit of privacy because they don't have anywhere else to go. It'd be nice to be able to get some funding from the state or somewhere else to try and help get them up on the street, out of the streets, and then moving up and moving on with their lives.
George, what is your position on the no street camping ordinance and the lack of enforcement? And also your position on the posted rules for city parks and the lack of enforcement?
I think we definitely need to get back to enforcing the rules in our city parks. We have sacrificed too many of these parks now. If you go over here, right here, on the other side of that fence, there used to be a beautiful park on the side of Goldsboro Creek. Everybody used to go there and hang out. You could barbecue, beautiful picnic tables and all that. Go take a look at it now. It's deserted. There's no reason for that. There's no excuse for that. And we can do better. Give me a shot, and I'll show you how.
Mary, what is your position on the no street camping ordinance and the lack of enforcement, and the posted rules for all city parks and the lack of enforcement?
Well, first of all, the lack of enforcement, we can't blame our police department. They're doing the best they can. We have a lot of crime. And I don't believe that I know what it's like to be out there and not have a place to live, but allowing them to be in our parks when we don't know what kind of a person they are and whether they're doing drugs and our children could be by those parks, I have a problem with that. And that has to be a priority. There's plenty of places outside of the city, in the woods, like you said, George, for people to go. And the parks in here, if we do that, we're going to look like Olympia and we're going to look like Seattle if we let all the people start putting their tents in our parks. And the police department's doing the best they can, and until we can get more help in that category, then we're not going to be able to enforce everything that we have out there. They're not going to be able to enforce all the rules. They may be able to cite them, but they're not going to be able to take them in because we don't have any place to do it. And really, these people don't have any place to live, so we're going to have to come up with some solutions. So whoever does get on the city council, we have a job ahead of us. And we have to find a place, and we have to find a solution for these people. This has to stop somewhere. That's mine.
Those were some great questions from the audience. Thank you very much. That was awesome. Back to the prepared questions now with George starting us off. George, do you believe the city of Shelton provides Shelton? If not, how could that process be improved upon to entice more businesses to open and providing more tax revenue?
So here's an area that I definitely know a lot about. I've been downtown 5 years. Next month, finally, Nita's been here over 70 years. I've been the facilitator for 5. During that time, I've got to watch small businesses come, and I've got to watch the battles that they faced all the way through the permitting process and everything else they tried to do. There was a place that came in on First and Railroad there a long time ago, right before COVID. It took them 8 months to get a sign permit. His business was open, but nobody knew he was there because he couldn't get a sign permit. That just seemed ridiculous to me. These are little things that we can work on in order to improve, we need to streamline some of this stuff. Partner with the county. You know what? They've got to seem to have a better system going, so let's get with them. Let's look at the state and see what other things are available to that. We can't just sit here and accept what we have because it's ridiculous. I need more people opening up downtown in order for my business to thrive, and in order, to bring tax revenue, in order to build more things. Otherwise, we sit here stagnant and do nothing. Thank you.
Mary, do you believe that the city of Shelton provides an easy route for new businesses to consider opening in Shelton? And if not, how could the process be improved to entice more businesses to open, therefore providing more tax revenue?
Okay, well, we're going to start right back where we started from about the finances for the city, because if the city has to make cuts, then when you're talking about getting your licenses and how long it takes to get a license, you got to have the staff in order to get the paperwork done. People don't realize that if there's 80, 100, 150 people wanting licenses, or 200 people wanting licenses for their housing, for this, for that, these people are sitting in their offices, and we think it's real easy for them to get these things signed, and they don't have the staff to do it. And it goes back to the city cuts and the money for the city. Having a business in this city, it's going to be hard for a lot of people to even want to come into our city and have a business if we can't clean up the city.
Tristen, do you believe that the city of Shelton provides an easy route for new businesses to consider opening in Shelton? If not, how could that process be improved upon to entice more businesses to open, therefore providing more tax revenue?
I do believe the initial idea of opening a business is always one that's full of romance, and everybody's like, oh, I'll open my own business. It's going to be great. And it's hard. The city, they do their best to try and help, but they just don't have the staffing to be able to put through all the permitting processes, make sure everybody has the proper licenses, insurances, all of the things and bonds that you need to make sure to open. I have my own contracting business. I will say I run it out of my home because it's a lot easier than trying to get a location, get the signage permits, get all the fire permits approved, making sure everything follows exactly what you need in order to operate out of a building that the public can come in. That's what makes it a little bit more difficult. If there was a little bit of easing or a way we could further develop the downtown so that we have more locations for people to operate their businesses out of, and then even if we entice people to come downtown, downtown when you're on a weekday, it's fairly barren. There's not a lot of people walking around. It's not very comfortable for most people to be there. It needs to get cleaned up. We need to make sure that it feels like a very inviting place for people to open their business so that they can get the draw. If we can get the draw, we can get the tourists to come in as well, and they'll come spend money, which gives us additional revenue for the city.
Our next question, we'll start with Mary. Mary, what legislation at the state level would be the most beneficial to the city of Shelton? And you do not have to assume the current makeup of the legislature. What legislation at the state level would be most beneficial to the city of Shelton?
Well, you caught me. I'm lost on that question. So I have to say I don't have an answer for that question, but I will be glad to look it up and figure it out. And if anybody wants me to get back to them, I will.
Thank you for your honesty. Tristen, what legislation at the state level would be the most beneficial to the city of Shelton? And again, you do not have to assume the current makeup of the legislature.
So a lot of legislation at the state level isn't something that we can affect as a city, except for by extensively calling our representatives. One of the things that I do find seems to be something that the city of Shelton can't really affect is property taxes. We're not allowed to play around with that. We're not allowed to touch it. We can't do anything about the vacant buildings and taxing them more because there are state laws that prevent this sort of action. If we can make it so that empty buildings have to be occupied, make it so that the businesses have a little bit of relief in their first year or so. People that are landlords have to maintain their properties or else they get taxed higher. And then maybe that'll help lower the tax burden for individual homeowners that live in the community and this is their primary residence. I'd like to see the ability for the city to raise a little bit more money through that, through taxing very, very high capacity housing, and then doing less taxing for people that own only one residence or are retired.
Thank you. George, what legislation at the state level would be the most beneficial to the city of Shelton?
This year was an absolute disaster for the legislature in our community. It was so slanted against us. The only thing I can say that was beneficial that I remember that came out of it was we got some money for the salmon over here. And that was a really good thing that I read about. Other than that, they barely recriminalized drugs. There were so many different rules that they went in and we said, whoa, how did we get here? They almost made it legal for you to possess drugs by failing to act in the last session. That's why I'm going to say the legislature hasn't done us a whole lot of favors this last time, as far as I can tell. And I have been paying attention. Thank you.
All right, we have come to our final question of the night here. Tristen, we'll start with you before we get to our closing statements. What is your view of the city partnering with the Shelton School District to provide more police as school resource officers?
So I've had the privilege of living in towns that haven't really needed a lot of police officer presence. So we've had a lot of clean schools, lots of teachers who are very involved with their students. And I have noted that at Evergreen Elementary, where my daughter attends, there has been really wonderful teachers. They're very encouraging. I've been really, really happy with the level of attention that they give the students and trying to help the ones that are falling behind and really encouraging the ones that are doing very well. I think that starting at the very base level of elementary school, trying to encourage these children, trying to help them along every step of the way, giving them everything they need to succeed is the first step. And then once they get into junior and high school, you do have some kids that start to act out, and having a police officer on campus may be a good way to deter that action, as well as having a counselor on campus that could help them figure out why they're wanting to act out, what's going on, and what can prevent that actions in the future.
George, what is your view of the city partnering with the Shelton School District to provide more police as school resource officers?
I am absolutely 150% for it. My son was taught how to play basketball on the schoolyard by Officer Cuthbertson for the Mason County Sheriff's Office. I am very pro-police. My wife is a Shelton corporal with the Sheriff's Office here in Mason County. I'm very proud of her, and I'm very proud of all the work that our officers do here in order to do the best for our kids around here. A lot of them have shown up and done a lot of really cool things, fundraising. We have the Shop with a Cop program. Anytime that we can involve and engage them early with the police is a total positive on my part as far as I can see. I've seen where my daughter is in life, because her relationship with the police here, she's actually flourished and she's done really well in life. I saw where a lot of her friends who'd say other things about police, where they've gone in life and how those things have turned out for them. And if we want to have a good, positive, encouraging relationship between law enforcement and our children, then we have to have school resource officers, without question. Thank you.
Mary, what is your view of the city partnering with the Shelton School District to provide more police as school resource officers?
Well, I think that's the best thing we can do. I think our children deserve to be protected. When I grew up, we didn't have to worry about this stuff. It just floors me that children can't come out and walk like they used to, go home like they used to alone, or be in school and be safe and not worry that somebody's going to come in and shoot them. We need the protection. Our school systems, we have to protect the children. If they say our children are the future, then why aren't we protecting them? Isn't that the most precious thing we can do, is to protect our children, their education, make them learn? They'll learn if they're not scared. If they go to school and they're scared, are they going to learn? I sure wouldn't be able to. I'd be sit there petrified. So I think it's a good thing that we need to do that. We need to protect our children in our schools.
Thank you, Mary. Before we get to the closing statements here from our candidates tonight, I do want to thank everybody here. These three candidates have been sitting here answering 11 questions for the last 45 minutes. It's not an easy thing for them, so we appreciate everybody here in the audience. A reminder, as we move through not only the primary season, but into election time, these three will be moved to the top two from the primary into the general election. And I'm sure that our Mason County auditor would love to make sure that everybody checks their signatures before they put them into the drop box or into the mail slot to help avoid anything there. I also want to make sure everybody remembers in August, the Mason County Republicans are putting on a cooking contest and fundraiser at Mason Lake. And I want to thank Melissa Upson and all of the Mason County Republicans for putting this on here tonight. So now we're going to get into our closing statements. Again, you have 2 minutes. And we'll start again with Mary at the end. Mary, 2 minutes to you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. I think our town is doing better. I've seen more businesses open. I think we have a lot of problems to solve. I think we can do it. I just think we have to put our heads together and find out where we're going to get the help to be able to solve these problems. To take care of one of the other big problems that we just said was to take care of our kids in school, make sure they're protected, make sure they feel safe, make sure they're getting the education they need. Well, if I was running it, they'd go back to learning reading, writing, and arithmetic like we did, but we can't change that, can we? So there's a lot of things that we could do that we can change for the city, but we're going to need all the people out in our city to try to contribute, not by coming, if you can't come to the city council meetings, you can write to the city council, you can write to the city, to the mayor, you can write to anybody. Let us know what your ideas are. Let us know what we can do and what you think can be done, because we're not the only ones that are going to be able to make decisions. We're going to listen to what the public has to say, and that's very important for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary. Tristen, you also have 2 minutes.
So I once again wanted to thank everybody for coming. It was very nice to see you all tonight. If I'm elected to city council, then I'm committed to working with our existing city departments and trying to work within our existing city budget. Our city has tried to cut and cut and cut as much out of the budget as they can, and at this point, there's not really much more to go. So what I'd like to see is bringing more money into the community. How can we make it so that we can continue to have these vibrant, fun community downtown events that bring people into our town, bring people that want to come visit us, want to come spend money at our local businesses, say what a great time they had in Shelton. They want to stay at our Airbnbs. They want to stay at the businesses. They want to come and see everybody. Because of this, our city's at a precipice. Our budget is really just torn right now, and if we continue on the path that we're going on without really solving the situation, it's just going to continue to compound with the finances. So I'd like to solve that first. We have over 10,000 residents that rely on our city to provide them with their utilities, all their water, their electric, and us partnering with them and partnering with even the garbage department to bring the trash out of town is what needs to happen. We need to figure out how to balance the budget, make it so that the city can pay for all of these things that they provide, as well as maybe be able to have some money for beautification projects. And I'd like to see that happen.
Thank you, Tristen. George, you have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Hi, everybody. My name is George Blush, and I'm running for Shelton City Council, seat number 1. Thank you for everyone for coming tonight. I appreciate everyone just coming out, especially since it's just us up here. You know, we were missing out on the judge. Everybody take a moment to say a little prayer for Judge Stevens. I tell you what, I have my little boo-boo here. And after what happened to him, I'm definitely feeling like a wimp for wearing a bandage up here today. Say a little prayer for him, though. He's a good man, and I'm sorry to hear about what happened to him. We have a mess here. We definitely do, but it's not too far gone. There's nothing we can't get back. There's nothing we can't fix. A lot of times we forget that we don't have to remake the wheel. We live in a place where we have a county that has plenty of money, and they've been working in government for a lot longer than we have. And if we work together with them, all the different things we could accomplish. You know, we talk with the state, the county, and all the rest of the partners around here. Why aren't we working with the tribes? You know, there's so many different ways that we could get money in order to move our city ahead. But instead, we're too busy trying to chase the same dollar that we've been chasing for a long time. Let's do better. Let's get some better ideas. Let's get to yes and figure out how we fix all this mess. I've been working in government here a long time. With the Housing Authority, I've learned that sometimes, you know, you need to talk to the people who know better than you and get things done. Thank you. Vote Blush for a cleaner shave for Shelton.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Once again, everybody, the candidates for Shelton City Council position number 1, Mary Eagleson, Tristen Smith, and George Blush. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. You'll be able to watch it on Mason Web TV. And now there's a little bit of time. It looks like you guys can corner these candidates and really ask them some questions now.
And I want to say a huge thanks to Diedrich with Mason Web TV and Jeff with KMS. They both donated their time and talent to be here and broadcast this and moderate it. So thank you to both of them.
And thank you, Jeff, for telling them they can corner us. I appreciate that.
This broadcast on Mason Web TV, powered by HCC, was made possible by Hood Canal Communications, committed to providing quality services that exceed customer expectations in voice, video, data, and customer service, keeping our community connected since 1934. Mason County Public Health and Human Services Prevention Education Partners Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition, helping provide prescription drug take-back boxes in Mason County. Mason PUD 3, connecting our community with safe, reliable, economical, and sustainable services 24/7. And Mason Health, united community, empowered people, exceptional health.
Thanks for watching Mason Web TV, powered by HCC.